Hey guys, and welcome back to Norway. Now, 1 year ago, I left home. Unbeknown to me, there was going to be a widespread global pandemic while I was away from home. Back in March, I made a video. Yeah, things have changed a little bit since last time I was talking to you all. And we discussed whether I stay in Norway or go home. And this is a follow-up video where we're going to discuss what it's actually like to live overseas during a global pandemic. I would love to know what your experiences have been throughout the coronavirus times. And if you would like to share, leave a comment down below in the video and we can exchange stories. If you like my channel, please be sure to subscribe. This is Is. She's my favorite dog here in Norway. Anyway, let's crack on into it. When the pandemic struck, I was really lucky to be here in Norway. So I had been working as a dog sledding guide with Tromso Villmarkssenter for about 6 months before. Tromso just happened to not really get affected by the virus too much. Norway had quite a few cases, I think they had about 20,000 cases in the first few months, but it never really got out of control in Norway. And I think one of the main reasons for this is Norwegians are quite distant people, and I think that really slowed the spread of the virus through Norway and through Scandinavia. We did have lockdowns, however. From March 13th through to the 1st of June, things were pretty slow here. There was absolutely no tourism. My company was closed. I was very lucky that we have dogs, and dogs still need to eat and dogs still shit, so there was still a little bit of work throughout that time. We were never put on full lockdown. We were still able to go out into the wilderness and we were still able to do things outside. At one stage we weren't really allowed to go into cities, we weren't allowed to meet other people very much, but at least we could still go hiking and dog sledding and skiing with the people that we lived with. Throughout the summer, Norway opened up to Europe, and there was a lot of people traveling up here from other places, and throughout Europe there was a lot of people traveling, and that led to another spike in cases, which we're still currently going through. And at the moment, Tromso has got a few more cases than they had at the very start, and Norway has got more cases than they had back in March. It is still well under control, and as the case numbers go up, the Norwegian authorities put in the regulations, and they seem to do quite a good job from what I've seen so far. I'm not overly concerned about getting coronavirus. I am young and fit and healthy, and the chances of me getting badly sick from it are low, but that's not why I'm not worried. For example, I could have spent the last 4 months worrying about coronavirus, or not, which is what I've done, and I've spent the last 4 months trying to do as much as possible and enjoy life. I'm not disregarding the risks out there. I know that it is quite dangerous, especially if you're a bit older or you've got medical conditions, but the fact is I'm not going to worry about whether I'm going to die from coronavirus or not. I'm just as likely to die by falling off a mountain, so therefore I'm not going to be overly worried about it. I will be very careful, of course, not to spread it to other people. I think that's the biggest thing to worry about, is actually spreading it to someone else who might die, and that would be really bad. I'm on a visa here in Norway, and that's been one of the biggest concerns, is that has an end date, and I'm actually trying to get a new visa so I can stay for another 6 months, and that's still pending at the moment. Any day I could get an email saying, yes, I can stay in Norway for another 6 months, or I could get an email saying I have to leave within 1 month. Everything's kind of up in the air at the moment for me. Again, I'm not worried about that at all. And when I get that decision, I will make the plan accordingly from there. There's also a lot of uncertainty around whether we're going to have future lockdowns here in Tromso or in other parts of the world. Also, there's a colour zoning. So if a country is red zoned, it makes it quite difficult to travel to another country after that. So for example, if Norway went red and I have to leave all of a sudden, then it becomes a little bit difficult. Where do I go? And are they going to allow me into any other country besides New Zealand? I think the worst thing that's come out of this pandemic is actually the worldwide blaming of each other, and how there seems to be this culture suddenly of blaming another country or other people for this pandemic, when actually every country that has allowed this virus to come in is partly to blame for the entire problem. So we shouldn't be blaming another country. If you couldn't keep it out of your own country, then you can't blame another country for allowing the virus to spread in the first place. Now let's go over some advantages and disadvantages of living overseas in a pandemic. One advantage is all the tourist attractions that would normally be really busy. For example, a mountain to climb or a rock climbing place to go, or somewhere to kayak. They're really quiet. There is a few local tourists in most countries, and especially here in Norway. In summer there was a few Finnish people here as well. But in general, the attractions have been really quiet. I was down in Lofoten for sea kayaking, and there was very, very few people down there. It was great, we had the whole place to ourselves, so that's a big advantage. Norway gets overrun by tourists, usually. Another advantage, during this time, I have still been overseas, and I've been able to have an incredible experience living here in Norway, the experience that I came here to find. And while everyone else has been stuck in their own countries, I've been able to be here in Norway, and even if we're on lockdown, I'm still experiencing the Norwegian culture, and I'm out in the Norwegian wilderness, and I've really enjoyed that and appreciated that opportunity. Now, the disadvantages. All of a sudden, the world feels like a very large place, and what took me just 2 days on an aeroplane to get here suddenly looked like it was going to be a really big effort to get home again. And especially when the lockdowns were happening, no one knew how far it was going to go. No one knew if the aeroplane companies were all going to go bankrupt. At this stage they haven't yet, only a couple have, but there's still always that uncertainty out there. My backup plan was to find a yacht and sail home to New Zealand if the whole world fell apart. If the world did go into meltdown, I would want to be in New Zealand for that. To go to New Zealand, you have to first buy a ticket into a quarantine hotel before you can buy the airplane ticket. Now, right now, all the quarantine hotels are full until after Christmas. So it's actually impossible for me to go home right now. And if I did want to, flights are a lot more expensive than they were when I came over here. And if I want to fly from Norway to New Zealand, I have to go through another country that might be Singapore, Hong Kong, Qatar, or Australia before I can get to New Zealand. And so I'm exposed to all the rules in all of those different countries. Stopover time has to be less than 8 hours, and there's paperwork to do, and you have to do tests for coronavirus and all that sort of thing. And each country has a different rule. And so it makes it really complicated to just book a flight home. Now, because I haven't heard back from my visa yet, and I do have to kind of have a plan B if I can't stay in Norway, I've been looking at other countries that I can go. And obviously Europe is the easiest place to go because that's where I am and it's nice and close. I spent about 2 hours doing research the other day as to what countries I can go to and what countries I can't. And to be honest, it was really, really hard to find out any information. There's no like one website that you can go to see all the countries in the world. One is Albania. I could go there. I could live there and ski for winter. Serbia is another place that is allowing New Zealand people to come in. And Ukraine is open as well, as long as I'm not coming from a red country. Norway's not red at the moment. And I could go to Ukraine for 1 month. Pakistan is another option. They're open to tourists, but I really don't know how to get to Pakistan. I think that would be quite difficult at the moment with flights. Thailand is offering a long-term visa. It costs about $500 US, but it allows you to stay for 6 months or potentially longer. And that would be an option of a country I could go to and live for a period of time if I have to leave Norway. And the other option is to go home back to New Zealand. Maybe sometime in future I will have to consider going back to New Zealand. It's super hard to find work overseas at the moment. Generally I work in tourism and suddenly all the tourism jobs are gone. I've been very lucky to be working with dogs, and so I've been able to keep my job here, and I've been working about maybe 50% through summer, which is enough to pay for the costs of living in Norway. But I've been very lucky to do that. And if I did have to go and find another job, I think it would be almost impossible at this stage. The work I was meant to be doing, which is all tourism related up in the Arctic and Antarctic on cruise ships, it all got cancelled. And that was probably for me the biggest disadvantage of this whole pandemic. While I was in Norway, I wanted to travel a lot around Europe because I was in Europe and it's so easy to travel everywhere. And I was going to do that over summer, and then suddenly that just completely disappeared and I wasn't able to do that. So unfortunately I haven't been able to make the most of Europe in my time here, but I have been able to make the most of Norway. There is a lot of positivity at the moment around possibly getting a vaccine shortly and vaccinating some of the populations. I think that would help a lot. It just has to slow the virus. It doesn't have to eliminate it completely at the start. It just needs to slow it down. And I think it'll be a lot easier then to get back to somewhat of normality with traveling and moving between countries. Even if it's not traveling as we knew it, but just actually being able to move between countries as opposed to not at all at the moment. So I really have my fingers crossed for that. So to conclude, I have been really lucky to have been stuck overseas throughout this pandemic. I've been able to make the most of this incredible experience. I'm really glad I made the decision back in March to stay in Norway, and I do not regret that. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like, share, comment and subscribe. And otherwise, until our next video, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy.